All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your patience. And we are ready to begin this meeting of the Senate Committee on Education. Welcome here in Carson City. There might be somebody in Vegas. I don't know. Welcome there as well. And if there's anyone on the phone line, I'm Senator Angie Taylor, and I have the honor of running this meeting on today. Today we have a bill hearing, Assembly Bill 464, and we have the work session for three bills, Assembly Bills 184, 420, and 495. We will have the hearing first, and then we will take the work session bills in order. But first, we will start with our roll call. Madam Secretary?
Senator Buck. Here. Senator Cruz Crawford.
Here.
Senator Doniate. Senator Dondero Loop. Here. Senator Rogish. Here. Senator Titus. Here. Chair Taylor.
Thank you. I am present. Please mark Senator Doniate here. When he arrives, he's presenting a bill. You know, we all know it's that time of year. Session. We don't get a year. We only get a session. It is that time in session. Just as a little bit of housekeeping. I know you've heard it before, but it's on my sheet, so I'm going to go through it. Please silence your electronic devices. If you would, then if you come forward to speak, make sure that you have signed in. In fact, anyone can sign in, so we'll have a record. If you've signed in, make sure that you leave your business card if you have one with our committee staff. When you come forward to speak, make sure you turn the microphone on. And speak your first and last name, and spelling your last name the first time that you speak, and then every time you speak, I will remind you to say your last name for the record. We want to make sure our records are complete and they're up to date and so on. We will, as I said, we have the agenda three bills for work session, one for a hearing. You will notice in the hearing that many of the committee members have laptops open in front of us. We have notes, exhibits, and so on in front of us, so please do not take that as a sign of inattention or of disrespect. And I think that gets the key things going, and so let's go ahead and get started. We will open the hearing for Assembly Bill 464, revises provisions governing education. That isn't clear at all, so we are glad you're here to clear that up, and welcome so much, Assembly Member Miller. Please begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much, Chair Taylor. Thank you for having me back again to present Assembly Bill 464. I'm Brittany Miller, the Assembly Member for Assembly District 5. Welcome. Good afternoon, committee members as well. We also know this is a time in session where amendments are still coming quickly, so I did submit in a brief amendment that has an impactful change in the bill, but so I will be presenting off of that proposed amendment as well. And so what Assembly Bill 464 does, yes, it doesn't explain much when it says governing education. What it actually does is protect the integrity of our current academic standards and protects educators from typical witch hunts or retaliation for their personal, political, or religious affiliations or activities that occur outside of contract hours. As you know, I am always bragging about one of my most favorite things about Nevada, being the third most diverse state in the country, and Clark County School District representing over 117 countries and our students speaking over 110 languages. It's an amazing experience to be in the classroom every day where I have kids from every walk of life, every continent, speaking every language, every culture. It is really an amazing thing and such an advantage for our kids who are growing up in a world that is much smaller and closer than we ever grew up in, so they are prepared to deal with people that are just a little bit different from them or seem different. This body has also made some significant and dramatic changes in the past, including back in 2015 with AB 234, which established the requirement for educators to complete a multicultural education course prior to their initial licensing, ensuring that our teachers were equipped to address and celebrate cultural diversity in the classrooms. Several other measures since AB 234 have further strengthened the inclusion of our diverse perspectives in Nevada's public school curricula. Assembly Bill 464 seeks to secure and maintain our current educational framework by safeguarding existing inclusion of diverse historical perspectives and cultural perspectives, as well as cultural representation content across our curricula from political motivated pressures. These measures aim to cultivate an inclusive educational environment that reflects the multicultural fabric of Nevada and prepares students to navigate and contribute to a diverse society. Specifically, right now, there is an agenda to eliminate specific programs that our students and community need, which include civil rights protections, language access, diversity and inclusion, with proposals that could eliminate college-going services for diverse students, weaken coursework, and create challenges in addressing identity-based bullying and harassment in schools and other Title IX protections. Now, I will say that that agenda is more nationally. There are states that are being directly affected by it. These are not the principles and the values that Nevadans hold, and so I just want to ensure that we maintain that protection within our state. As many of you know, maybe less will admit, but educators are under attack. There are always accusations against educators, and many of them are very heinous, accusing educators of being groomers or trying to indoctrinate children and other perverted ideas about literally made up agendas against educators. I know that there was opposition coming against this bill. Some will say, well, you already have First Amendment protection. As I stated, we do have First Amendment protection, but as certain protections are being shredded at the federal level, I want to make sure that our Nevadans are protected. So thinking currently, we see that there have been reactions across the country. You can either call them reactions or responses to what is happening. We've seen that in businesses, in the media, in law enforcement, and even the colleges and universities by pulling certain programs and certain expectations and certain curriculum from their institutions. So at this time, I'll explain the two major components of the bill, and again, addressing the proposed conceptual amendment. What the amendment actually does is it removes NCHE from the bill. So NCHE staff and students won't have that protection. And it also removes, in some definitions, there's two definitions in the bill of applicable public employee. So it removes NCHE from that, and then governing body, the definition of that, it will also remove the regents, NCHE, and county commissioners and city council members. So with that, the first section of the bill, basically what it does is it maintains, secures, and protects our existing academic standards, meaning that whatever is currently being taught cannot be removed based on a certain political agenda. So there are certain categories where that become overly politicized. Those would include subjects or classes or lessons that teach on genocides and other atrocities experienced from people from various racial and ethnic backgrounds, history, language, art, humanities of different ethnicities, communities, countries, and cultures. Again, humanities including music, theater, any of our arts. Classes that teach national and world current events, the United States Constitution, the structure of our government, civic activity and responsibility. Classes and subjects that talk about socialization, communication, and sensitivity to other persons, groups, and communities. Classes that talk about scientifically proven human reproductive, physical, or emotional development. Again, English language arts, music, and any subjects created by individuals from or for diverse populations. There's been opposition that has been brought to me about the concern that people of I wouldn't say different religions, I'd say always focused on one religion, of them being required to teach something that may be against their faith. I would remind the committee that I am not adding or changing any of the curriculum. Whoever is in the schools right now teaching, whichever subjects they are teaching, they have already managed around if there is something they feel personally conflicts with them. Again, teachers are able to choose which subjects, which grades, which majors they go into. So again, that is not a concern because these are existing curriculum right now. The second part of the bill protects our educators from, again, I will be the first person to say that no teacher should be in the classroom expressing or sharing their personal political or religious beliefs. But I also believe that teachers have the right under the First Amendment, like anyone else, whatever religious or political persuasions or activities they have cannot be used against them. And so what the second part of the bill does is it restricts the board of trustees of a school district or any type of governing body from suspending or terminating the employment of any administrator, teacher, or any other educational or support staff based on their sex, race, national origin, religion, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, physical or mental disability, political affiliation, or independent political or religious participation. This would include making it unlawful for the use of threats, attempts of force, intimidation, coercion, violence, restraint, or undue influence with the intent of harm or to harass an administrator, teacher, or other staff member based on those attributes. Also, because if they provide the required instruction or academic materials relating to standards required by the state. Now, I know that many of you are not in the schools or haven't been in the schools in quite a long time. And so it may be hard for you to believe that these things are happening. They happen all the time on a regular basis. And you can ask educators because this is the war that we're under. So in closing, Assembly Bill 464 represents a significant step towards supporting and maintaining the cultural diversity in Nevada's educational system and acknowledging the importance of inclusive curricula in promoting social cohesion, mutual respect, and academic excellence among students of all backgrounds. It's also important that our students feel seen and heard, valued, and respected. As a state, we cannot allow the McCarthyism or Salem witch hunts of the past. We will stand and uphold the First Amendment right of freedom of speech, expression, and assembly for all of our Nevadans. This bill's addressing our educators. And with that, I urge your support, and I am now available to take questions.
Okay, thank you, Assembly Member, and thank you for coming and presenting the bill. Committee members, we will open it up for any questions. Vice Chair?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Assembly Member, for the bill. I just have a couple of questions. I know you said this was happening in the schools. I actually checked with, and not just in our district, and I didn't necessarily get the same feedback. But what I'm wondering about.
I'm sorry, Senator. I will break protocol. I do need to stop you right now. You're saying you did not get any feedback of accusations, negative
No,
accusations
that's not what I
against.
said at all.
Okay.
Don't forget to state your name.
Brittany Miller for the record.
That's not what I said. And I'm not criticizing the bill. I'm simply saying that when I read the bill, I asked some of the people that I know that are teaching, and I said, is this really happening? Right? There was a concern in my voice. So if you want to break protocol, this probably isn't the place to do it. Now, I have some other questions. The other questions that I have are, for example, when you're a government teacher, in my opinion, only my opinion, I think you should be nonpartisan, right? I don't want to walk into a government classroom. I don't want to see political signs unless I'm going to see political signs for everybody, I don't want to see political signs. So you'd need to be nonpartisan. And so what if a government, and I'm just going to use American government teacher because it's an easy one. What if that American government teacher does have some very strong feelings, I don't know, one way or the other? Is that okay? Can they still have their rights, if you will?
Thank you for the question. And Brittany Miller, for the record, I will back up and say, I don't want it to be thought that accusations are not being made against teachers. I'm not saying that they are being fired or whatever right now, but the bill is proactive to protect against if that came to that point. So your question about a government teacher, now, saying they should be bipartisan, I cannot say they should be bipartisan. I can say they should teach bipartisan or apolitical. That's where they need to come from. I taught debate, okay? And I teach debate using the example of that this is in actual, the difference between a street fight and boxing, right? One has rules and standards and expectations and training, and the other is just a release of emotion. And so with debate, you know, often students think that their grade is going to be based on if the teacher likes me or if the teacher agrees with my position. And so we do a lot of prep before that. No, the grade is never about if the teacher agrees with your position. It is about do you have the facts and the evidence to support your claim and your position? You're graded on your argument. So I have taught debate, and I have had students that have chosen to debate on certain religious political figures and religious figures and political figures. I also do something in my class where I have the students grade and score each other. And so there was an instance where a student stood up and gave his presentation, and he wanted to say that one particular president that I definitely disagree with is the greatest president ever. So he gave his presentation. A couple students were concerned, and I said, we're grading on what we're grading in front of us. The student, and after I collected the fellow students' grades, the student ended up getting an A+ from me because it wasn't about the agreement of his position. It was about the information that he presented in his argument. Just like in the courtroom, right? It's not about who actually did it or didn't, it's who presented the better argument. And so I know for a fact, as I know many, there are teachers that do keep their political, their personal, whatever those feelings out of the classroom. So this isn't about saying you have to be registered nonpartisan to teach government. This is saying, as it currently is, the expectation, you need to continue to teach in a nonpartisan fashion.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my other question is that I know you said that there was an amendment to remove NSHE. Does that remove the Davidson Academy, for example, on UNR, or maybe other schools that might eventually be affiliated with a charter school, a university, you know, other entities?
Thank you, Senator Brittany Miller, for the record. No, it would not. You're saying charter schools that are chartered by NSHE, K through 12 charter schools?
Well, could be, or the Davidson Academy sits on UNR, right? It may be a separate entity, if you will, but I'm just trying to think full circle. If there was a charter school or a private school or like I said, a public school that happened to sit on a university campus for whatever reason.
Brittany Miller, for the record, we can check with legal, but I believe that those K through 12 charter schools would still be included in the bill because it does still talk about charter schools specifically and governing bodies of charter schools.
Thank you, Assembly Member. I will ask counsel, would you please weigh in? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Substitute Committee Counsel. So if you look at section 1.3 of the bill, subsection 1 specifically is talking about the Board of Trustees of the school district. But if you look down to subsection 2, where it talks about the governing body of a charter school or a university school for profoundly gifted pupils, that would be the Davidson Academy. It's a university school for profoundly gifted pupils. So all the flavors of public school, including the Davidson Academy, are included here, even if the references to NSHE go away because of their status as a public school, separate from their relationship with NSHE.
And I would
Thank you,
also-
counsel.
Brittany Miller, for the record, I would also like to follow up to the senator's question too. My concern in the amendment also removing the county commissioners and city council members is that we know that there are city councils that are attempting to charter schools as well. So that was a concern, but I removed it based on the fact that there were additional concerns about having them in there and some negotiated agreement situation. So, but I know that there's a possibility with that as well.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Vice Chair, more questions? At this, okay, I do have a couple of questions, Assemblymember. One if it's you named some prohibitions against taking actions against teachers based upon political affiliation, race, and so on and so forth, right? Isn't that already illegal?
It absolutely is.
Okay.
And we're going to make sure it stays illegal.
Okay. All right, get that. And then another, and I believe this is in the bill, but I'm reading a lot of bills right now. This is really an attempt to, not an attempt, but this is targeted towards activities or actions or whatever in the classroom. If a teacher has a particular affiliation, and they are, let's say, a religious affiliation, right? Just because it's easy, right? And it's something that's maybe a little bit more extreme, right? They're there too, and they're there at their whatever, doing whatever. It's away from school. It's during their private time. It's not on campus. This is not an attempt to govern that. I mean, or is it? Tell me where that line is.
Yes, Brittany Miller, for the record. Thank you, Chair. This is an attempt to protect whatever happens outside of the school. Again, the laws and rules and expectations and policies about what happens in the school is not changing. The same with the curriculum. This is to protect individuals in their personal life from certain attacks. We are in a very hypersensitive, heightened, politically agendized environment right now. And what we don't want is that a parent or another teacher or an admin sees a teacher that they're participating in a march or a demonstration, or we find out they belong to this temple or this type of religious whatever, and or they're working a campaign or such like that, and then they become a target. So again, what happens during in the classroom and contract hours of keeping your political and religious beliefs outside absolutely needs to continue.
Thank you. I'll give myself permission to follow up, right? At least I didn't ask me on the mic. At least I didn't ask myself. Now I forgot my dang
Ask
question.
and
Shoot.
answer.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate that. So in this really, so whatever's happening in the classroom, whatever's already in the governing policies for school boards, and the school boards have the policies and so on. Those do not change. That's governing what happens. So there's no extra freedoms or anything like that, and no less freedoms.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not, these things should not be in the classroom, right? Just 100%.
Absolutely.
It is not any educators. They do not have the right to impose their personal religious or political views on the students. That absolutely is not, that is not okay, nor should it be tolerated. And so this bill does not address any of that. That doesn't change. This protects individuals from their participation, their activities, their affiliations, their beliefs outside the classroom in their personal life.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Are there other questions from the committee? Senator Buck?
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I see in, what is it? Section, or 8, I believe, G. Does this require the teaching of human reproductive system?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. It would not change whatever the current existing standards are. So whichever grades reproductive systems are taught in, that would continue. What it's protecting is the removal, just to bend to certain political agendas.
And if I may, Chair, also, it says a member of the governing body. Can you explain that? Who violates the provisions will be guilty of a misdemeanor and a fine up to $1,000. Explain that a little bit.
So are you asking what the governing body is, or what are the, Brittany Miller for the record?
Go more into depth into that section.
Okay, so when it talks about the governing body of a charter school, we're referring to, because different charter schools use different management companies and different terms for what would represent them as a school board or a managing company. And especially because we have charter schools that are definitely managed by companies under certain political agendas, and some with out-of-state affiliations. We want to make sure, again, that our Nevadans here are protected. So that's what that term would include. But again, when we're talking about what is unlawful, it is the, if we go back to the section, actually on page 8, where it talks about the intimidation, the force, the coercion, violence, restraint, undue harm, intent to do harm, harassment, those types of things against educators. And again, that can come from any person. So it can also come from someone in the public. So again, as long as people are teaching what is expected, the current academic standards, because someone disagrees with it or doesn't want it, they cannot put that undue stress on the educator for doing their job.
Thank you so much for that. And who is the judge and jury on that?
That would be the courts.
Senator Buck, you're good? Okay, all right. Any other questions from committee members?
Would you ask if did this conceptual amendment come after the
Yes, thank you. This clarification on the conceptual amendment, it's after the first reprint, yes?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Senator, the one referring to the definitions, is that the amendment you're talking about? There is an unfriendly amendment that I am not accepting.
I was going to ask you about that one.
So the amendment submitted by me did come after the first reprint, yes. And the first reprint addressed, it was just written where it gave a different impression. The way it first came out, it was written as if it was, I was trying to create or add new academic standards. And so the rewrite was just to correct the intent. This second amendment is to just remove those aspects from the definitions.
Okay, thank you so much. Other questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none, Assembly member, we will invite you to just step back, if you would, and we will open up the hearing for support testimony. Support testimony for Assembly Bill 464. Please come forward at this time here in Carson City. If you're in Vegas and you'd like to testify in support, this will be the time to come forward as well. Please go right ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Alexander Marks with the Nevada State Education Association, speaking in support of Assembly Bill 464 to ensure common sense and inclusive academic standards while protecting educators from harm based on their identity or political participation. AB 464 requires genocides to be included in history education, works from diverse backgrounds in history and English, and science to be fact-based. The attack on diversity, science, and truth sadly makes these standards necessary. Meanwhile, educators have faced an increasing harassment for their political beliefs and independent action, with notable upticks in coordinated campaigns aiming to intimidate or silence educators. These campaigns often involve tactics like doxing, public shaming, filing complaints, and mobilizing at school board meetings. AB 464 will provide important protections for these educators, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Seeing no more support testimony here in Carson City and none in Las Vegas. AVH, do we have support testimony on the phone lines?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support to Assembly Bill 464, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much, AVH. And now we'll open it up for testimony in opposition. In opposition to Assembly Bill 464, please come forward. Here in Carson City or in Las Vegas, if you're there in opposition, please come forward at this time. Please go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state president of Nevada Families for Freedom. We have serious concerns about this bill. We don't want anyone harassed or persecuted for what they believe, but we believe that AB 646 locks DEI into our education in the Nevada schools. It is an attempt to thwart any effort by voters, taxpayers, parents to move away from a woke agenda in our schools and back to traditional American ideals identified in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and basic education. It prohibits State Board of Education, county school boards, charter schools from refusing to enforce any course or of study by the council to establish academic standards and on public schools. Section 14G, which is repeated in other parts, is a particular concern where it talks about the physical and emotional development, including without limitation the development of human reproductive system. Does this interfere with the law that provides that local sex education advisory committees with the approval of the County Board of Trustees determine the curriculum for sex education? This bill is an intimidation tool which provides that members of a governing body, such as a school board who violates the provisions of this bill are guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by a fine, and any person employed found guilty of violating this agenda shall be terminated. Since parents found out what was really being taught in the schools during COVID, there has been a steady exodus from the public schools. Homeschooling, which was 2.1%, is now increased to 13.1% from 2020 to 2021. What happens, and this increase continues because people are unhappy with what's being taught in the public schools. And this bill is an attempt to lock that in so that it cannot be changed, even though there's been an election and other things. What happens?
Ms. Hansen, I'm so sorry. Your 2 minutes are
I'm
up now.
finished.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please go right ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Taylor and committee. My name is Joshua Skaggs, Legislative Affairs Director for the Nevada Republican Party, here today to express strong opposition to AB 464. Our party platform states we support local control of a traditional classical liberal curriculum, and we oppose the implementation of diversity, equity, and inclusion in school policy and curriculum in all schools K through 12 in all colleges and universities. AB 464 represents yet another effort to bypass parental authority and embed progressive ideology into school curriculum. Section 2 of AB 464 criminalizes the termination of school administrators, teachers, and staff based on gender identity and expression, effectively shielding educators who promote gender ideology in the classroom. Schools should prioritize core academic subjects rather than advancing social and political agendas. Discussions on gender identity divert attention from essential learning and may pressure children into questioning their gender unnecessarily. Schools should maintain a clear, fact-based approach, reinforcing that there are only two genders, male and female. Furthermore, AB 464 opens the door to rewriting history to fit ideological narratives rather than teaching objective facts. When education becomes a tool for activism, students risk being misled about historical events, societal structures, and foundational American principles. Instead of learning accurate history, children may be taught distorted versions that serve political agendas rather than truth. This is dangerous. Nevada should reject AB 464 and instead adopt measures similar to Florida's parental rights and education law, which prohibits educators from discussing gender identity without parental consent. Violations should lead to immediate termination, ensuring that those educators who promote fake gender ideology and false political narratives in schools are removed from the classrooms and kept away from our impressionable children. Please oppose AB 464 and prioritize education over ideological indoctrination to ensure that students receive factual, unbiased instruction in history, science, and the core academic subjects. President Donald J. Trump has issued executive orders on DEI and gender ideology that may have significant implications, including potential loss of federal funding for institutions that
Mr.
do not
Skaggs,
comply.
I'm so
Thank you.
sorry, sir. Your time is up.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Please go right ahead.
My name is Catherine Ingham, Catherine Ingham, and I'm here representing myself. Last year, we voted, and I think it was pretty loud about how we voted. Parents voted, aunts, uncles voted. We did not like what was going on. If we had liked what was going on, we would vote more the same. We voted for somebody who was brash and who would do everything to stop what was going on. This bill is trying to continue what we do not want. We do not want DEI. We do not want division. In the 1980s, I was taught that so many people from so many different cultures and backgrounds made the United States the most amazing, greatest place you've ever been. I got taught people's names, I got taught what they did, but it wasn't in an angry or divisive way. It wasn't to try to get people to feel a certain way about the country. It was facts, and it was amazing. At that time, I really did not understand the United States or the background or the history. Through history and through my language arts and through cultures, I was able to understand a lot more about what a mixture the United States is. But it wasn't in an angry, violent way. It was through facts, and it was through understanding. And I really hope that you guys maybe take a look and see what the parents want. We want our kids to be taught in a factual, understanding way, not in divisiveness. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ingham. Please go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name's Mary Przenski, here representing Nevada Association of School Superintendents, and we really appreciate the fact that the sponsor of the bill has listened to several of our concerns and has amended the bill a great deal. We still have some areas that we're concerned about and have amendments ready to discuss with her. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that before this hearing, so right now we're still opposed, but hope that we can, figure out our differences. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please go right ahead.
Nancy Carlson, Carlson. Madam Chair, Senators, thank you for allowing us to speak. I'm speaking out in opposition to AB 464, which does spend our limited dollars on ethnic studies. As you know, Nevada consistently performs in the lowest 25th percentile of students across the nation. Our English language arts proficiency in high school is 45%. Our math proficiency in high school is 19%. We have a $191 million shortfall in revenue in Nevada, as stated by the Nevada Economic Forum. Nevada spends $12,200 per student annually, and there are 11 states that spend the same or less per student that outperform us. We have limited financial resources and should be spending our dollars where they matter most. Although the plan is for ethnic studies to foster inclusivity by promoting awareness of different cultures, many argue that these initiatives can undermine merit-based systems and politicize education. Rather than fostering open dialogue and critical thinking, these programs reduce complex issues to narratives of oppressor and oppressed. They emphasize group identity over individual merit. And despite significant investment, these programs have not shown measurable benefits nationally. Our schools should prioritize policies that respect diverse perspectives, uphold academic standards, and treat students as individuals rather than representatives of demographic groups. The cost of AB 464 is approximately $350,000 per year. We have limited resources and decreasing revenue, and we should spend our tax dollars on improving core academic programs which make our students more competitive in the state, national, and world stage, not on programs which divide them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Please go right ahead.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Perrine, CYNTHIAPERINE. Thank you for the privilege of speaking with you today. I am in opposition of this bill. However, I am appreciative of the recent amendments which remove NCHE and the Board of Regents and other officers. But I do not think that we need to add another layer of instructional material when our state children are so behind in core subjects. There is an absolute towering need to improve in reading, writing, and arithmetic. And until these basics are well established for the children, this additional layer of instruction might be neither useful nor necessary. So we need a competent workforce, so the state is crying out for improvement in these core subjects. In the end, I believe there's plenty of coverage in the media already for many of these issues that are of concern in this bill. The public has ample access. So it does not necessarily belong to be taught aggressively in our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perrine. Please, Ms. Carlson, may I invite you to step back so someone else who may want that chair. Thank you so much. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Cyrus Hojjati, Hojjaty. I appreciate the efforts of the sponsor, and I appreciate the fact that she likes diversity. And, it's important to talk about it. And look, I think it has its upside. There's things I like about it. My apartment building is pretty diverse. However, everything has its downsides. And I think we feel that this curriculum is not fair. Some people don't like it. Diversity can bring conflict. Many countries have split throughout history because there was conflict, like Sudan, not too long ago. Las Vegas area is pretty diverse, but some neighborhoods are not. And you got to really think about that. And hence why perhaps you can argue some people go to private schools. We're concerned, does this bill have fairness of views in terms of what if somebody is pro-European and is not happy with multiculturalism? We hope that their First Amendment is protected. And I absolutely believe that they should talk about genocides, but are we going to talk about all genocides throughout history? What about the Armenian genocide? The fact that Persia was conquered by the Arabs and the Mongols and the Turks? We talk about the Indian Ocean slave trade, where, how the Arabs and Persians took slaves from East Africa. All these things need to be considered. Hence, Saudi Arabia's 10% sub-Saharan African descent. And is there going to be a double standard among men and women? Are we going to say, for an example, Summerlin is more sexist than Las Vegas because there's a larger pay gap? All these things need to be considered. So we have some concerns about some of the cultural aspects, and correct us if we are wrong. But other than that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hojjati. Seeing no other opposition here in Carson City and seeing none in Las Vegas, if there's opposition in Las Vegas, you can come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the phone lines. AVH?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 464, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, Yolanda Kanak, YOLANDA I agree with all of the opposition as of yet, and I am very concerned about this bill, and of course I'm opposed to it. I think that one of the problems with this bill, besides what's been already said, is that it's kind of clear as mud. It's like, well, you're going to require we're going to do what we've been doing. Of course, we haven't done too well because we're like 49th in the state. So please vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knack. Next caller, please.
Casey Rogers for the record. I would like to say first off that I am in lockstep with everything that has been mentioned before. People are very accurate about what's actually happening out there, especially Mrs. Hanson and Mr. Staggs, I believe was his name, first two speakers. Excellent job. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a disguised word format to look pretty and kind, but it's really and purely communism and communist ideology. It's part of their specific agenda. And everything that was stated before, accurate. Pulling our country into death and destruction. Over 100 million people have died over communist ideologies. You have to stop this now. They're trying to infiltrate the school system, and you need to be protecting our children. That's what we're asking you to do. So please oppose this bill. Stop world control. Take care of our kids. Let's get on the right track. Let's get better. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Next caller, please.
Chair and members of the committee, my name is Erin Phillips, and I'm the CEO of Power to Parent, an organization that exists to ensure parents remain the primary decision makers in their children's education. I stand in strong opposition to AB 464. This bill strips local control by forcing every public school in Nevada to retain and teach specific curriculum standards, regardless of what local communities, school boards, or parents want. It locks in ideological content, such as social, emotional learning, diversity, equity, and inclusion frameworks, and reproductive education without room for revision, reconsideration, or dissent. That is not how democratic education systems should function. AB 464 effectively ties the hands of future boards and legislatures by bypassing the normal process of review and public input. It creates permanent ideological guardrails that elevate one worldview while excluding others. Even more concerning, this bill claims to protect the speech of individuals in protected classes, especially if their speech aligns with state-sanctioned ideology. For those who hold different views, be it for religious, cultural, or moral reasons, this bill threatens their speech, their employment, and their place in public education. This is not inclusion, it is coercion. Educators should be able to exercise professional discretion. Parents and elected school boards should have a voice in the values and content being taught in their communities. AB 464 erodes those foundational rights. This bill is anti-choice, anti-local, and anti-parent. I urge you to vote no on AB 464 and stand for a system of education that welcomes diverse thought, respects community input, and protects every student and educator's rights, not just those who comply with state-imposed ideology. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Chapman, Lynn, and I'm the state treasurer of the Independent American Party. Just to let you know, 90% on the opinion page are opposed to this bill. The U.S. Department of Education, February 2025, said U.S. Department of Ed launched nddei.ed.gov, a public portal for parents, students, teachers, and the broader community to submit reports of discrimination based on race or sex in publicly funded K-12 schools. The Department of Ed will use submissions as a guide to identify potential areas for investigations. AB 464 prohibits the State Board of Ed and county school boards, which were elected by the people and who are our voice, from refusing to enforce any course of study by the council to establish academic study standards for public schools. Excuse me. This renders the county and state boards who were elected irrelevant. Nevada, there is federal dollars to be concerned about. Also, in investigations that should worry Nevada. So we're agreeing with everything that's been already said. In opposition to AB 464, please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon. This is Oscar Williams, OSCAR, WILLIAMS from Reno, Nevada. I oppose AB 464, and Amendment 430, because it guts traditional studies with woke studies. And it doesn't really appear that anything here is actually going to improve outcomes in our public schools. I think it's actually going in the wrong direction. Putting cuffs on private schools and charter schools just hurts everybody. It brings us down to a common denominator that is proven to be a failure in our public schools. I think the lack of attention to that is a failure on the part of legislatures and the sponsors of this bill. You think absenteeism, dropouts, and homeschooling and migration to charter schools was bad before. If this bill gets into law, the public school system will flounder and fail even more. Poor performance in our schools is an economic issue as business and governments need competent, literate persons to do the work. However, this I don't think is going to produce literate persons. The statistics are what they are. Let's face it, illiterate persons are less likely to vote, and that hurts democracy. Illiterate persons are more likely to earn less, get in trouble, and underperform in life. When combined with the sister bill, AB 495 and Amendment 431, you are you're impeding people to find the best educational opportunities for their students and for families and students. Let the free market run and let the best and brightest prevail. All right. I urge you to vote no on AB 464 and Amendment 430, and also similarly AB 495 and Amendment 431. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Next caller, please.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Al Lasso from Las Vegas. While conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion have their place, I think we need to take a step back and use some common sense about where our priorities lie. Can you look in the mirror, please, and realize that our public school system is failing our children, and start passing bills that actually help our children learn reading, writing, and arithmetic? Nevada's education system, particularly Clark County, the fifth in the nation, ranks 49th out of 50 major metro areas for school quality. That should be alarming to every parent, teacher, policymaker, and elected official. We're graduating students with some of the lowest academic standards in the country, and we spend less per student than the other top 5 districts. Our kids are falling behind, and the consequences are real. Can we use some common sense before we chase the latest political buzzwords or initiatives? Let's make sure every child can read at a grade level, do basic math, and graduate with skills they can actually use. Our focus should be on outcomes, not optics. Our children's future and Nevada's future depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lasso. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Katrin Ivanov, I-V-A-N-O Frank, and I'm calling in a very strong opposition of this bill. Just yesterday, I was in one of the hearings that you were trying to pass a law, maybe not you, but your legislatures were trying to pass a law that we have to accommodate illiterate when they vote. Let me say that again, because of my accent, if you don't understand, we're trying to accommodate illiterate people when they vote. Voters are 18 years and old. We have illiterate people over 18 years of age, and instead of fixing that problem, we try to accommodate them in their life to continue being illiterate. We have to teach our kids simple math, science, reading, writing, ways to think, not what to think, critical thinking. We don't have any class on critical thinking. Cursive also is taken out of the schools. when kids write cursive, they put more effort into it. And it's prettier and it's nicer. That's taken out of the schools, but yet we're going to teach them ideologies, communist ideologies that actually are quite now racist. They discriminate against the white male. And yes, I am worried because I do have a white male growing up. So please, please, I have a feeling you guys don't even listen to us. It doesn't make sense for all the parents to be begging you to not put this into a law and you still vote for it.
I'm sorry. Your time is up, ma'am. Thank you so much for the call. You can certainly send your comments in to our staff, and they will make sure that they are on the record. Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. Bob Russo for the record. That's spelled R-U-S-S-O. I oppose AB 464, which locks in the woke agenda in our schools and places DEI, critical race theory, and so on ahead of basic academics. Any curriculum that pushes the woke socialist ideology ahead of strong educational standards with an emphasis in sound mathematics, science, English, and civics should be challengeable. This bill would prevent that and even make a school board member guilty of a misdemeanor for challenging this agenda and representing the needs of voters and students in their communities. To make it lawfully impossible to challenge the woke agenda will sentence our youth to a subpar education, jeopardize federal funding, and basically shut the minds and hearts of those that disagree with this agenda within the State Board of Education, county school boards, and charter schools. They either go along with the program or they're gone. Sounds like a bill intent on intimidation and appears quite tyrannical in nature. We need strong standards in education that will prepare our children for the world and challenges they will inevitably face. They need an education that will help them stand on their own 2 feet so they will be able to support themselves and their families and become vibrant members of their communities. So I ask you to please oppose Assembly Bill 464. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. I believe we have one more caller.
Once again, we are in opposition testimony to Assembly Bill 464. To testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Joy Hello, my name is Joy Trushinsky, Trushenski. I oppose AB 464, and I support all those who have spoken earlier on the opposition of this bill. This bill usurps the authority of elected school boards and charter schools from responding to the concerns of voters, taxpayers, and parents. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not supported by the majority of Nevada citizens. That is why parents are removing their children from public schools because of the DEI and pornographic sex education curriculum in our public schools. Carson City School District is $4.7 million in debt because of the loss of pupils. Also, because if we continue this DEI agenda, we will lose critical federal funds. Public schools should be concentrating on teaching our children critical thinking, reading, writing, spelling, and arithmetic. The curriculum should include a fair and balanced view of American history and world history. Stop the data collection of our students and reduce the computer-generated courses that reduces the time students have with teachers. Also, we want, as American citizens, as Nevadans, we want free speech in our schools and not this indoctrination. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Trushinsky. I think that's our last caller, AVH.
Thank you, Chair. We have no additional callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. And now we'll open it up for neutral testimony. If you have neutral testimony to Assembly Bill 464, please come forward here or in Las Vegas. Please go right ahead when you're ready.
Amy Payson, AMY-PASON, and I am representing the Nevada Faculty Alliance. The Nevada Faculty Alliance is testifying in neutral on this bill as NSHE has been removed on the conceptual amendment, but we see the relevance of this bill in relation to current attacks on higher education and our colleagues in K-12. NFA is affiliated with the American Association of University Professors, which advocates for academic freedom, shared governance, and faculty rights, and the American Federation of Teachers, AFL-CIO, representing over 300,000 higher educational professionals nationwide. Given our current political climate, our national organizations of the AEUP and AFT have been on the front lines to protect academic freedom and support faculty politically targeted for teaching and researching issues in history, current events, or science, especially if that work accounts for diversity and equity. We have seen faculty in our own state lose grants in public health, history, or climate science simply because they also ask about the impacts to different demographic groups in our state. Academic freedom means being able to ask important questions without the fear of retaliation or without limits of government agencies that will only fund research on topics that align with their politics. No faculty or teacher in our state should be threatened or intimidated for how they identify, for what they teach, or their area of expertise.
Thank you, Ms. Payson. Seeing no other neutral testimony here in Carson City or in Las Vegas, we will go to the phone lines. AVH, do we have any neutral testimony?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 464, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. Assembly member, would you like any closing comments?
Thank you so much, Chair, for the ability to make some closing comments. Of course, I would like to point out that, nothing, the idea that we need to be teaching reading and critical thinking and history and civics, those subjects are actually spelled out right there in the bill. And again, it continually talks about history and civic engagement. Also, the concern that stating that this would lock in and wouldn't enable any changes, existing law hasn't been changed. So under Section 1.7, the existing law is still there, and one of the requirements of the council that develops our academic standards is to establish a schedule for the periodic review and, if necessary, revision of the standards of content and performance. A few other things that I would like to address is, again, we know that it hasn't happened yet in Nevada, but we know that these things are happening in other states and other schools across the country. Since COVID, we've seen this anti-science movement. We've seen the removal of African American history studies from certain schools, or the idea to make that slavery was a workforce incentive program. We've also seen businesses and universities remove certain protections and programs. And if the opposition wants to use the terms DEI, then I will use the terms DEI as well. As for a woke agenda, we're only about maybe 150 years away from when it was illegal to teach me how to read, simply because of the color of my skin. So it was a woke agenda when it was finally legalized where I could be taught to read. It was a woke agenda when it was taught that I actually wasn't part ape and that I actually could feel pain. All of these were woke agendas and agendas that came out of the medical community. It's interesting that people think or don't understand the actual expansion of these protections. The First Amendment, this bill protects everyone. There's opposition that is viewing this from their own personal viewpoint and never considering that it actually supports and represents and protects everyone, all political ideologies and affiliations, all religious activities and affiliations. Imagine if there was a teacher that was at January 6th. In fact, we don't have to imagine, we know there were, right? And if the school board or an admin or a parent complained and said, I saw this teacher at the January 6th insurrection, they need to be fired. Would that be acceptable? Or would you want a law like this in place that would protect them because it was outside of school hours, they didn't discuss it in the classroom, they didn't try to influence their students, they had the right to do whatever they wanted to do politically on their own time? That would include a teacher of a different, if there was a Catholic teacher, do you want a parent of another faith pushing against that and accusing them of teaching Christianity in the class? Do you want a teacher or an admin harassed because they participated in a Republican campaign? The protections work both ways, but it's very telling that the opposition is coming from one viewpoint. So instead of understanding just exactly how it protects us all. Again, I will state we are in the third most diverse state. Clark County School District alone, which is not just the 5th largest in the country, but also the largest in our state. I keep hearing over and over about the rights of the parents, the parents, the parents. What about the parents of our kids that are of different cultures, ethnic groups, and races? What about those parents? What about those kids? Do they not have rights as well? Or are rights, when we talk about it and the opposition occurs, only coming from one viewpoint or one position, or to be quite frank, one group? They say I have a political agenda. I absolutely do have a political agenda. It's to uphold the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Nevada. My political agenda is to ensure that our kids are growing up where they feel seen, accepted, and equal. And if we're talking about academic performance, there is no academic performance if a kid is sitting in a room and they feel because of their faith or their color or their language that they are not the same, treated the same, or embraced the same as any other kid. So if you ask me about my political agenda, absolutely. It is to uphold the First Amendment, to protect free speech, to protect freedom of religion, and to protect everyone's right to choose what they do in their personal time. With that, I urge your support on this bill. I thank you for the opportunity to share the measure and to answer the questions. And with that, I will close. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Assemblymember Miller. We appreciate your coming down, presenting the bill, and staying for all the questions. This will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 464. And now, committee members, we will go right into work session. We have three bills on our work session agenda today. We will start with Assembly Bill 184, and our policy analyst, Ms. Jen Sturm-Gamer, will take us through it. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. Jen Sturm-Gainer, Committee Policy Analyst. As a reminder, as nonpartisan staff, we do not advocate for or against any measure. The first bill today is Assembly Bill 184, which is sponsored by Assemblymember Anderson. We heard this bill on April 30th. The bill revises certain provisions and processes relating to interscholastic activity participation and athletic recruitment. Several proposed amendments are included, and they're also attached to the work session document. The first changes the suspension period for any coach or their staff member involved in athletic recruitment for the remainder of the full season and the next season of the sport in which they served, rather than for at least 10 games for the first violation. Second, clarify the required documentation necessary to demonstrate financial hardship. For purposes of the bill, financial hardship does not include instances where scholarship funding for a private school is lost. The third amendment is to include that the request provided to the NIAA for a pupil to participate in a sanctioned sport or interscholastic activity or event upon the pupil's transfer due to assault or bullying must include evidence of the substantiated incident of assault or bullying. Fourth, clarify that a one-time transfer is for the lifetime of a pupil and for all schools. And finally, the amendment also adds Senator Taylor as a primary co-sponsor and Senators Neal, Krasner, and Buck as non-primary co-sponsors. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. I will ask if anyone has any questions for staff. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass.
I move to amend and do pass.
Okay, Senator Titus beat you to it, Vice Chair. You gotta be quick around here.
Second.
Okay, Senator Titus has made the motion, and our Vice Chair is the second. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there opposition? The motion carries. Let the record show it is unanimous, and because I'm a primary sponsor, I will assign that to myself. Ms. Sturmgamer?
Thank you, Chair. Jen Sturm Gaynor, Research Division. The next bill on work session is Assembly Bill 420, which is sponsored by Assemblymember Gonzalez and was heard on May 5th. The bill requires school districts and charter schools that employ or enter into a contract to provide school police officers to prepare and publish data on the use of force by school police officers on their website. There's one proposed amendment which removes the definition of school police officer in subsection 3D of section 1, thereby removing peace officers employed by a metropolitan police department from being included in the reporting requirements contained in the bill. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sturmgamer. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I will entertain the motion to amend and do pass if that is a pleasure of the committee.
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair, then second from Senator Cruz Crawford. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there opposition? Opposition, Senator Buck and Senator Titus. Okay, let the record indicate that, and then we will assign this floor statement to Senator Cruz Crawford. Please, Ms. Sturmgamer.
Thank you, Chair. The final bill on work session today is Assembly Bill 495, which was heard on May 2nd. The bill revises provisions relating to charter school closures, stating that if a charter school receives the lowest annual rating under the statewide system of accountability for public schools in any 3 consecutive years, the sponsor of the charter school must terminate the contract or restart the charter school, among other provisions. There's a few amendments here for consideration. Assemblymember Torres Fawcett proposed the following amendments, which are attached to this document as well. The first changes the percent to points in reference to a charter school's performance on the statewide system of accountability. Second, it removes Section 2 concerning the establishment of a committee to evaluate the statewide system of accountability for public schools. And third, it changes the effective date. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sturmgamer. Any discussion or questions for staff? Seeing none, I will entertain the motion to amend and do pass if that's the pleasure of the committee.
So moved.
Thank you very much. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Okay, there's a second. There's a motion from the Vice Chair. There's a second from Senator Dunyante. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Is there opposition? Yes. Opposition from Senator Buck. Okay, let the record show the measure passes with one opposition, and I will assign this floor statement to Senator Dunyante. Now we're down to our last item on the agenda, and that is public comment. If you'd like to make public comment at this time to the Senate Committee on Education on any item that has not been covered on today's agenda and that's within the purview of this committee, please come forward at this time. You'll have 2 minutes here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. Seeing none, we will go to the phone lines. AVH?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide public comment, please press *9 on your phone or raise hand in your Zoom window to take your place in the queue.
I'm just wondering, do you even care what the people want? Because the bills that go and pass through the vote are absolutely disappointing, especially the education bills, not just the one we talk about today. There are a bunch of other ones. You have a bill that you're trying to make a law that parents are not allowed to know what books are in the school of our children. How does that make any sense? Who doesn't even come up with an idea like that? Please listen to the parents. We work hard, we pay taxes. The reason you couldn't even fill up 30 minutes with opposition is because most of the people are at work to try to provide for their families, and they're counting on your representation and for you to make laws that help our lives, not make it harder. We don't want you to parent our kids. We want you to give us a chance to parent our kids. Thank you so much. I know that you're working hard, but I really don't feel very well represented when you guys are trying to pass laws like that. Have a lovely day.
Thank you so much. Public comment? Okay, you'll have 2 minutes. It's on an item not on the agenda or something within our purview. If it's related to education, then you're good. If it isn't, then I'm going to stop you. Then I'm going to stop you. We can't. Okay, if you would. I mean, there's probably a place, but it just isn't here. Okay, this is strictly about education, Mr. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. No, that's okay. No problem at all. No problem at all. Okay. That concludes our agenda for the day, committee. Thank you so much. We will see you here Friday. A call of the chair. We'll try to get in early. Call of the chair on Friday.